Good and evil. I have two sisters. One of my sisters has struggled with her weight her whole life. She went on a diet called MetaFast earlier in the year, lost a ton of weight, gained self-esteem, only to revert to her old overeating habits, and now she's 50 pounds overweight again. Nothing insurmountable, nothing grotesque where you'd stop and look with pitying wonder, but enough to kill her self-esteem, raise her blood pressure, elevate her heart rate, and cause joint and back pain. This is the day before I return to Seattle. I'm in the basement watching television, and my sister comes down the stairs visibly upset and shaking. She tells me my father made some ignorant comments about her weight and asked her when she is going back on her diet. My father is a profoundly ignorant man, and just about every word out of his mouth is ignorant, so that didn't surprise me. It's also no secret in the family that my sister plans to return to her MetaFast diet after New Year's. She's lost the weight before, she's shown herself and everyone in the family she has the willpower to lose weight, and she has everyone's moral support to lose the weight again, including my father's moral support, which I will get to later. Since the writing of this epistle, I have reconciled with my father. I just wanted to put that on the record right now. To continue. Later today, I'm sitting at the dinner table with my mother playing Scrabble, and my father walks into the room. I gently say to my father I have to talk to him about something. I understand my father better than he could ever possibly understand himself. Over the years I have broken him like a wild stallion. I have been careful to break a part of his spirit without breaking him whole. I told him my sister was very upset about some comments he made to her regarding her weight and when she's going back on her diet, and how important it is to know not only what to say, but how to say it, and even more important to know what not to say, with the implied expectation that he should have damn well been aware that my sister knows she needs to lose weight, and he has no way with words, and he should keep his mouth shut ad nauseum, ad nauseum. My father admits to his blunder. He admits he struggles to find the right words and the right way to say them. There's a quiver in his voice because I have ways of expressing my consternation with him without raising my voice. I must admit there are times I fail at this, but today I was successful. My father realized his words were uttered to the detriment of my sister. But then there was a turn, and I have been pondering this turn all night, and my pondering of this turn is the motivation for this letter. There was a turn in my father's voice. There was a turn in his eyes. And he said something along the lines of how when fat, lazy people spend time around other fat, lazy people, they stay fat, and how he's seen it happen too many times, and he just wants the best for my sister. Who all these fat and lazy people are who my sister spends great quantities of time with will forever remain a mystery because they simply aren't there. There are an aunt and uncle on my mother's side of the family who are obese, but my sister only sees them a couple times a year. They invariably are the ones my father is referring to when the subject of weight and my sister are brought up. Anyway, that's beside the point. It was how those words fat and lazy jumped off his tongue. The clipped, biting venom in that tongue brought it back to me. I saw the conflict in him. I saw the forces tearing their ways through him. I saw a bruised and battered good. I saw an unspeakably ugly evil. Evil is a real, living, breathing, pulsating force in nature. It's in my father. It's in me too at times. I think he knows it, and it's killing him. Good is also a real, living, breathing, pulsating force in nature. Good is in my father. But in that turn, I saw evil in his eyes. I saw evil say, "It's my turn to take the stage. I am not finished with this man, my father." I saw the war between good and evil being waged before my eyes in my father, and I was filled with equally opposing internal reactions, neither of which I acted upon. Part of me wanted to crush his skull, and part of me wanted to hug him and tell him I know him, and I see what is going on in him, and through it all I still love him. I did neither. I shook my head with a wan smile, an innocuous way of saying, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" But I have always known what's wrong with him. I digress. My grandfather, my father's father, was a vicious man, a brutal drunk who brutalized his family. I only saw the man a handful of times, but as I sit here and recollect, I remember obliquely seeing flashes of this viciousness, this evil in him. I've seen these looks of terror in my grandmother, my father, my two uncles, and aunt, any time they discuss, in the most hushed, faint whispers, what growing up was like for them with Grandpa. I don't know how much they know I know, and it's probably better they don't know how much I know. It's a half-century since my grandfather's reign of terror began, and all the adult siblings of my grandmother wear the scars of this trauma glaringly to this day in their own ways. It's so obvious to me, and for how little of this that is mentioned when discussing family dynamics, I find it obscene. I believe my father is a good man. He's loyal, he would do anything for his family, including laying down his life for those he loves. I've been through hell with him, which I'll leave for another epistle, if not forever. He terrorized me for a solid 10 years, to wit all of it unconsciously on his part, with maybe the dimmest of animal awareness, if that. A broken, shell-shocked man who unloaded on the person he loved most, his one and only son. The trauma he has inflicted on me I could never fully tally, and I think an attempt to complete that ledger would ultimately be to my chagrin. He's not the only person to put me through hell growing up. You move on. I've moved on. You come to terms. I've come to terms with this crazy dance called life, and I have too much living to do to live in the past. In my case, I can honestly say it's a matter of will. My will to live and persevere is as immutable as the laws of gravity. Again, I'll just interject. I have since reconciled with my father since the writing of this epistle. To continue. Let me work my way back to the original thread of this epistle. I saw a battle in the war between good and evil play out in my father today. I've seen it 1,000,000 times in him, and this one only reminded me of the preceding 1,000,000. Thankfully, this one was relatively benign. My sister's feelings were hurt, which isn't to be taken lightly. And this war waged in my father his whole life, today came to only a few flashes of what's past and ongoing. And that's what breaks my heart most, the inevitable continuance of this war. This is a war my father in his current corporal form will lose. He doesn't have the psychological tools required to beat this. He'll fight it until the end of his life because he is a fighter, and I do not think he'll quit on himself. But I'm not sure on that point or any point. Whatever happened to him growing up stunted his emotional and psychological development. He's an emotional cripple, overreacts to everything, and is impossible to talk to. He knows this, but the devil is in the details. An understanding of the details escapes him, frustrates him, and the cauldron keeps stirring, never abating. The urge to crush his skull quickly vanished, and you want to know what came to me? The Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, Jesus, the waspy version, speaking to all those knuckle-dragging mongrels, and how impossibly true those words are. The metaphysics in the book of Matthew will never be matched. I can see myself redacting those last 2 sentences, but not today. I'm nowhere near entertaining the literal veracity of the events of the Bible. But Jesus nailed it on that one, as did John Lennon and Martin Luther King Jr., and a whole slew of other people rewarded with an unnatural death. There is evil in this world. As a force of nature, it is as real as the crack in my tuchus. The only thing we have to combat evil is love. Love, and in a moment my heart swelled with love. Love for my father, love for my sister, love for you. As a force of nature, love is as real as that aforementioned crack in my tuchus. God is love. All you need is love. To love is to know God. To love is to see the face of God. Credit Victor Hugo's estate. But whether this conflict between good and evil is a dichotomy, duality, juxtaposition, pendulum, spectrum, churning in the cosmic idiot with 7 billion personalities, not excluding all the other forms of known and unknown sentient life, isn't important. This is a war on, at a macro, micro, infinitesimal, and cosmic level, in us, out of us, all around us, and it's as real as the scientific method. I think what gives me an edge in life is my cognizance, however incomplete and inexact my understanding of it is, of this struggle amongst all life forms composed of their own special cocktail of elements from the periodic table. I use that last phrase because, as personal as it is, for what is more personal than broken, even toxic family relationships? It's also impersonal. What's more impersonal than the periodic table? We're made of the same impersonal elemental stuff as all inanimate matter, yet we are conscious, with an expiration date, hence the urgent reaching for the ineffable. I'm redacting my statements from above already. Love and knowledge, love and science, love and critical thinking. We can pull apart the threads and isolate them in our heads for intellectual scrutiny, for studying its parts is necessary. But in reality, the whole cosmic muffin is inextricably interwoven into one big, cohesive, chaotic, contradicting, self-defeating, regenerating, self-propelled, throbbing hard-on, screwing itself, literally and figuratively, straight through eternity. Or does the word eternity need removal from that last cluster of impressions? My mind always has a way of working itself around to. Enough of that for tonight. I admit what happened with my family tonight, seen as an isolated incident, was tame. But what it revealed in a flash has been brewing and working its ugly magic my whole life, and I saw a strong enough flash denoting something my cells tell me has existed as long as conscious life. I see no hope to even partially eradicate it from life. Stand up to it and keep on living. December 2014. And as another footnote, I've reconciled with my father, and if I in no way would I still stand by those harsh words I mentioned earlier in the epistle, but like I said, I'm leaving this for the record, so there it stands. But we have reconciled since this epistle written over 5 years ago. So once again, December 2014.